Well, it's coming to the end of Women's Month, sadly, but we are joined by Totsie Memela. She's the CEO of Eduloan to discuss empowering women through education. Totsie, thank you so much for making the time to join us. Perhaps first things first, we always talk about empowering women. Why education? Why is that such an important thing to be doing?
I think when we look at education is one thing that is a game changer for anything and everyone. I remember when I was growing up, my mother said to me, the only thing that can take me out of poverty, or us, including my siblings, was through education. And it's through education that you can get a child of a domestic worker actually becoming a CEO of a company, like it has been the case for me. And I don't think it would have happened if it was not through education.
Now, you're the CEO of Eduloan. The number of loans that are being taken out by females, are we starting to see an increase in that?
It is. There's a huge increase. Actually, when we look at our book, 58% of the people that take loans with us are actually females. And believe it or not, they pay better than men. But it is. And I think it's one thing that we never talk about, because even though when we talk about the issue of access to finance, women continue to find it difficult. But for any institution that starts enabling access to finance for women, you find that in terms of your book always performs better, because we know that for us, we are always looked at as riskier as women, and we make sure, and we're scared of taking risks in many instances. As a result, you'll find that in many instances we pay better than men.
I think you're right, absolutely, about the risk side of it. But I wanted to pick up on the number that you used to say 50% of the people who take loans from you are women. I would argue that that number needs to be higher, because we know that women have not had the opportunity to go to school, and therefore, given we're 50-50 in any case on a gender basis, we should be having more women. How do we get more women to think along those lines, that in order to be able to change your situation, you just have got to go to school?
I agree, but it's not only 50%, it's 58%. I agree that that number is just not good enough, because when you look at opportunities, particularly at high level, and you look at the number of women that, because in terms of what we focus on, the women that we give loans to as different to banks are people that are already employed. So when you look at number of women that are already at senior level in terms of the South African context, only 28% of women are senior managers in our country, and 17% only are actually CEOs. So, and when you look at the burden of responsibility that most women have, and most of us, it's not the responsibility of just taking care of your children, but it's in many instances the responsibility of taking care of your extended family, be it your parents, and whatever the case may be. So I do agree that it's definitely not enough. A lot of work still needs to be done by all of us in corporate to make sure that, for us as women in particular, to make sure that first and foremost we lift as we rise, so that we can create better and more opportunities for other women. This is what I've always done in terms of all areas that I have been. I mean, for example, in terms of our EXCO in Eduloan, in terms of our EXCO team, we have 4 women at EXCO and 1 male.
Okay, there's a serious imbalance there. There's a serious
I
imbalance.
know it is an imbalance.
Because I'll tell you what, I've got a daughter, and I wanted to be as educated as the next guy in the street. So I think in terms of balance, you need to balance it out. But I wanted to come back to the point you're making about the fact that you are reaching out to women. But I wanted to understand the profile of the type of woman that you're giving the loan to.
Okay. In terms of the profile of women that we're giving loans to, it's mostly professional women. Those that are not poor enough to get government loans, because government does provide loans to those that are poor, people that earn less than 130,000 per annum in terms of income, of household income. And those that are not rich enough for them to be able to access loans from banks, because for us it's the middle market that we focus on, and those actually tend to have more challenges than you would find for those that actually can go to a bank and get money from a credit card or get their money from their mortgage. It becomes easier for them. So that's the middle income that we focus on.
We always talk about having the right skills, empowering people, empowering women in this case. Are they getting empowered in the right skill sets? Are we seeing these women going ahead and doing their MBAs, for example?
Oh yes, I think even when you look at the space within the universities and you look at the number of women professors, It's not enough. I do agree it's not enough, because we only have about 24.6% of women professors at university. So I think when you look at the number of women that are getting into university, there's actually more than men, which I agree with you, it's not good enough, because after all, our girls still have to find husbands, and they still have to live with these men. So we need to make sure that we do continue to have that balance. But the numbers are improving. When you look at the number of vice chancellors in terms of the South African context, out of 23 public universities, we only have 4 vice chancellors that are women. Is that good enough? I don't think so. It's definitely not good enough. Have we gone a long way? I think we're getting there. But when you look at the fact that in the early 1980s, us as women, you couldn't open a bank account without the authority of your mother or your father. So we have come a long way, but there's still a lot that needs to be done.
Totsie, I want to come to that point, because you said it's not enough. We still have a long way to go. You are the CEO of Eduloan. What are you doing in order to make sure that we are reaching certain targets? And perhaps, you said we're looking at 58% now. In the next year, where would you like to see that sitting, and how are you going to do that?
Yeah, in terms of the employees of Eduloan, currently the employees that we have, 70% of our employees are females. Well, one could argue that in the service sector it's always the case in any case, but 70% of our senior managers are actually female. So I believe
that's deliberate.
It is deliberate. It is extremely deliberate, because if we want to make sure that the customers that we have, the numbers continue to increase, we need to make sure that we have people that are going to be empathetic in terms of dealing with women, to make sure that we empower them, we enable them to access the loans that they need to have. So I do agree that on the loans, we are beginning to go beyond our borders in terms of extending the business of Eduloan, and we're going to make sure that nothing is going to be said in any table without women being part of that. So whoever we're going to partner in the rest of the continent, for example, we have a partner we started in Zimbabwe. The partner we have in Zimbabwe is a woman. And it doesn't matter which part of the continent we're going to go to. We're going to make sure that women don't only get invited to the table by men, that they are part of the decision-making
Before you wrap
process.
up, I wanted to ask about the pass race. Who passes better? Is it the men or the women?
Believe it or not, it's girls. It is girls that pass better.
I believe it.
It is.
You always saw in groups, and whenever you had group work, all the guys wanted to be with girls. Why? They get the job done. They're a lot quicker, a lot more efficient. But Totsie, thank you so much. It's good to see that you are empowering women, not just in South Africa, but going beyond the borders of South Africa. That was Totsie Memela. She's the CEO of Eduloan.